Hello, everyone. Welcome to the seventh episode of Lit at the Beach. Lit at the Beach is a series that we use to highlight special issues. This month, it is Earth Month, and we will be talking about great books about environmentalism. Alright, so let's get straight into it. This episode, I'll be discussing Pollution is Colonialism by Max Liborion. I read this book over the course of Earth Month, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. So, the book is basically an analysis of the intersection of colonialism and environmental pollution. LeBron is a Canadian researcher who studied at New York University. The book it takes a look at the pollution that comes with colonization, but also the colonization that comes with environmentalism. So the book aims to bring attention to an indigenous perspective of Western environmentalism. Essentially, it is trying to make readers understand that within the conservation of preserving or within destroying the land, we often forget who the land was brutally stolen from. What I liked about this book was that it attempts to take a very complex and complicated issue and make it digestible for the average person who may not be in academia. I also like that the book very outwardly tries to be respectful of indigenous people, something that's often glanced over. For example, LeBron speaks about how even when trying to do positive environmental work, scientists are engaging colonialism, even with their good intentions, because they are assuming access to the indigenous land for their research. Furthermore, LeBron very explicitly states that their book is not decolonization. The author speaks on how the word decolonize is thrown around often, but to actually decolonize would mean to leave and give the land back to the natives. Because this is not actually happening, LeBron prefers to use the word anti colonial when describing their work. I also like that the book gives a framework to understanding how we are polluting the land of indigenous people. This is especially important because we here at Cal State Long Beach are on stolen colonized land, making us settlers. A lot of what LeBron talks about is directly applicable to us here at Cal State Long Beach. For example, in the book, LeBron spends a lot of time talking about plastics, their history, how they came into the mainstream, and how they became a major pollutant. Here in Long Beach, you may know we have a lot of pollution, and a lot of it is plastic. And here at our school, we use a lot of disposable plastic, whether it be in our vending machines, in our cafeteria, in our classrooms, and we throw it away, and some of it may end up in the ocean. So we are polluting the indigenous land. Also, LeBron talks about the concepts of sinks, which are places that waste is dumped. This is inherently colonial because this land is not ours to dump waste on. We are assuming access to indigenous land. Sadly, this is very applicable to Long Beach because after the land was stolen from the indigenous population, a lot of it was turned into a sink. Most notably, there are massive dumps of the dangerous insecticide DDT dumped in the ocean surrounding Long Beach. An estimated 25,000 barrels lay scattered on the ocean floor, slowly corroding. Efforts to remove the barrels could lead to a massive ecological disaster. However, the barrels are corroding and they're slowly leaking, so researchers are at a standstill. The dumping of DDT into the ocean was a very colonial act. As the non indigenous population, the settlers did not have the same amount of respect for the land. Unlike the indigenous population who had lived off the land for generations, the settlers only saw the ocean as a resource, but as a resource under the lens of capitalism. Therefore, they saw it as something to exploit and make money from to generate even more capital, whereas the indigenous population saw it as a resource to live from, one that they had lived from for generations. This is a very clear example of how capitalism, colonialism, and environmentalism all intersect. LeBron even goes as far as to say that the taking of land and resources that comes with colonialism is the first step of capitalism, which is what the United States was basically founded on. He says, political economist Karl Marx argues that primitive accumulation, the stealing of land, is foundational to the possibility of capitalism. It's how someone gets more capital than someone else in the first place, which you need to jumpstart a system where only a few people own the means of production. You can't make and hoard capital without stealing land first. This passage, in which LeBron uses Marxism to analyze the correlation between capitalism and colonialism, is very applicable here in Long Beach because the land was stolen from the native population. And in saying this, LeBron is also basically just saying that there is no way that the indigenous population could coexist with our current system, because our current system could not have existed without taking from them. So there is no such thing as decolonization with settlers still on indigenous land. This is something that we have to acknowledge as a campus of students on stolen land. I suggest that you read this book if you want to understand more about how we as settlers are polluting the land of the indigenous population, and if you want to understand how you can engage in environmentalism while also being respectful of the indigenous people who truly own this land. So if you're interested in this book, you can find it at most major bookstores. However, you're better off looking for it online rather than in person. So that's it for today. I hope you guys do read the book, and I hope you do learn from it because it does have very relevant information to us. Please make sure to follow us on all our platforms and subscribe to this podcast. Thank you.